So I'm making a video on the test that I just took, Language Arts and Writing. The GED test, practice test that I took is an official test I took online. The practice test was supposed to be only half, which is like, I understand it was like 22 questions, I think it was, or 17 to 22 questions. And I did really well, obviously. Did the writing, said I did really well. So I took the actual test today, and it was 3 hours, but the website said it was only part 1 and part 2, and you get a break between the part 1 and part 2 essay part. Part 1, I felt like I did really good. I felt like I did 9 out of 8 to 10 out of questions right. That's my opinion of it. I feel like I did really good on there on the first part. There was something like, I think 17 questions, so I felt like I did good on that. Essay, I felt like I did really great on that as well. But other than that, I did feel like I passed the first 1 and 2 part. There was a third part that doesn't say that on the website, so that was like 60. That was like 65 minutes, and it was 65 minutes with, what was it, 34 questions. I think it was 34 questions. I had to guess on the last like 5, and what I did through that test is, since to try to preserve the time that I have and try to narrow down the questions to the correct one, is obviously there's always one question in there out of the 4 multiple course questions that you'll get that's just like a no answer. It's just like that's definitely not it. So what I do is I read through the question, read at the multiple choice. It gives me 3 options. I know C is what I was told during school throughout my entire school years, that if you don't know an answer, choose C if you absolutely don't know. So what I did is I read through the 3, I extract the 1, and I looked at the 3 to see which one's more likely, and then I skimmed through the entire paragraph's story. And that's pretty difficult to do really fast. So I was doing that to try to preserve, because there's a lot of reading you have to do and retain that information, then answer the questions, and you only give them 65 minutes. So that's what I did. I had felt like I did through most of the test, and the last 5 questions I pretty much guessed on there, 5 to 7 questions at most. But you know, reading through there, and so I don't know, it's kind of real sketchy. I don't kind of feel like I didn't pass it on that third part, but they say they average it out on the essay, and they average it out on the first part as well, also on the first the third part as well. First part is multiple course questions. The third part is multiple course questions. I don't know why they didn't just have those 2 together. It didn't make sense, but I don't know. We'll see. In about an hour and a half later, a little bit later today, should get the answers. But I don't think I necessarily passed. I could have if I did good enough on the first 1 and 2, and then they average out the third. But it's kind of hard when you take a guess. You know, there's 5, 7 questions. Out of 34 questions on that third part, you're only allowed to get probably like 5 wrong at most. So, I don't know. I'll probably have to retake it again. So if I do, then I have to retake it. I'm just going to keep retaking the test and scheduling every month for a test until I get it all completed, as much as I possibly can. I did feel in that third part that I was repeating myself a lot. Like, I kept on having to read a question and my head would go blank, and I kept on reading another question, and the questions on the third part were actually a lot more difficult. They're a lot more difficult than the first part was, and it takes a lot more analytical thinking of trying to dissect that story. But that's how I felt about it. I hope I passed it. If I do pass it, I believe it will be barely that I passed it. Or if I fail it, it'll be barely that I failed it. At least on that third part. The first 1 and 2, I felt like I did really good. I feel like I did really good on there. They shot me with a couple of different electronic devices in the first part when I was in there with 2 other students. The third part I was there by myself. Yeah, gotta wait here the next, hopefully before 3 o'clock. It's 1:30 now, so hopefully before 3 or 4, get the answers. If not, I'm not gonna let myself down. I'm gonna just schedule for another test. I already got one scheduled for social studies in December. If I fail it, I can't take the next language arts test until January, which is weird because when I was at the test center, it said that there's that you can only take the test 3 times in a single year. But when I called and I spoke to the person, they said that you can take it as many times as you want until you pass it. If you fail it more than 3 times in those 90 days, then if you fail it more than 3 times, then you have to wait 90 days before you can take the first test. Or you can take the retake test again. So I don't know. I felt like I was kind of being shot with electronic devices because when I was reading, I felt like I was sort of having to repeat myself a whole lot of times, and it was frustrating because I was trying to progress and move and I couldn't. But I felt like I did good in the first part, in the first and second part. I feel like my brain kind of got foggy, but I tried my best. If I don't fail it, I'm not going to be hugely disappointed. I'm just going to keep scheduling until I try to pass it. But hopefully, social studies I'll do even much more better. So that's not until December 6th. So that's my review for the videos for the Language Arts GED test here in Vermont.